Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community. We were racing A-Class Lamborghinis versus Ferraris. Our first race was at the Laguna Seca circuit, and into turn one things got a little bit hairy on the inside, and a few cars managed to escape the track. Turn one is often a bit tricky here. There's the bump coming past the start line that in previous games you never really think about it. On here, certainly with some cars with a bit less grip, it is a major concern. But I'd survived the first corner fairly well. I then dive up the inside of a Countach. It was too wide for me, 3 wide in front. Everybody somehow got through there, just about giving each other enough space. I go to the inside of an F40, then outbrakes himself a little bit, and F50 is getting very sideways around that particular corner. I've made up another couple of places as we run up the hill. The Countach is taking an interesting line. That's not normally where you end up. Again, one car running a bit wide. The F50 I'm now right behind, also running a little bit wide at the top of the course. I give the F50 a little bump, under braking into the corkscrew. I've got another F50 trying to go around the outside of me, and we all fly down the corkscrew and are out the other side relatively intact. I'm having a look at the back of the F50, then just run out of grip. Dino gets a big slide on and manages to go in between me and the red F50. I get a little bit scared and end up out a bit wide, and somehow my GTO had survived everything that the opening lap could throw at it. Further back, the F40 ran a little bit wide out of the final corner. Lamborghini Miura gets up the inside, and then it's the drag race down towards turn one, across the scary bump, and under braking the Ferraris up the inside, having a look. Just not quite far enough. Even if the Lamborghini does get a little bit of a slide, the F40 thought about going up the inside, then changes his mind, ends up slowing himself down so much. The F50 is now right on his tail looking for a way past. This particular F50 had a stupid amount of grip. Sure enough, gets to the inside. Again, it's too wide through this corner. The F50 has so much grip, can breeze past on the inside. And yeah, it's going to be out of range by the time they get to the next corner. Further back, this was over, I think, 14th and 15th place between a couple of Lamborghinis. There's a Miura in the foreground, had a spin out of the corkscrew, the Gallardo trying to get to the inside. Can't do too much there. The Countach gets an excellent drive out of that particular corner, but this is a little bit of a fiddly place to overtake these couple of corners. You can't really do too much unless you're really very brave. Final turn is your best bet, and sure enough, the Countach fires up the inside. The Gallardo tries to go around the outside. There was some lag problems in this opening race. The Gallardo can't make it stick, and now we have another drag race down the start-finish line. Then we learn the dangers of the bump. Coming up to turn one, the Countach gets it wrong, locks the rear brakes, and just can't stop it into the first corner. That bump is terrifying. In some cars, it's just enough to throw the cars about. And in that case, yeah, Countach just locked his rear brakes, and he was a goner. At the front, and it was now becoming a 4-way battle for the lead. An Aventador that was very quick in a straight line led the way. I was trying to get up the inside of the F50 in front, couldn't quite do it. My GTO was pretty decent in a straight line, but it lacked the cornering speed of the two F50s, and the Aventador was faster than the lot of us in a straight line, but didn't have the corner speed either. It's getting a little bit crowded at this particular stage. Also, there is no visibility in the GTO. I drive in cockpit view, that you can't see the mirrors, so trying to see where cars are around you is terrible. It's really quite scary. Up towards the next corner, and the F50 is getting brave, trying to go around the outside of the Lamborghini, and sure enough, he gets the place. The run up to the next corner, though, the Aventador is very quick. I get an excellent drive out of that corner. I'm right on the tail of the Lamborghini. Unfortunately for the Lamborghini, he clips the inside of that corner and fires his car off wide, losing time. So it's now a 3-way battle for the lead. I'm looking as we come up into the corkscrew. I know my best bet is into turn one, as I have the straight line speed. However, I think I got a little bit sideways on the entrance into the corkscrew, lost some ground on the car in front. Now the red F50 is trying to find a way past. I'm having to be a little bit careful, a little bit defensive, run a tiny bit wide. I can get away with it though as I'm on the inside for the next corner. F50 having to go the very long way round of this one. He keeps his car there. There's a little bit of a bump, but now we're back to doing the drag race down the start-finish straight, and this is where the GTO is strong. I have the straight line speed. It's quite scary over the bump. Both of our cars, I think, were a little bit in the air. Under braking into turn 1 though, the F50 comes from a long way back, still manages to stop his car, although in doing such a big dive runs a little bit wide on the exit. Has a wheel on the dirt. I can get my car back up the inside. It's side by side through the next corner. The F50 going the long way around, just can't quite make it stick at that particular corner. I know I'm in a bit of trouble here. The leader has a wheel on the dirt as well, and there's only so long I can fend off this car. I'm having to be as defensive as I can be. Unfortunately, I balls up a little bit, just out braking myself into the next corner, even with my better acceleration. Up this hill, I know I'm in a bit of trouble. The F50 trying to get to the inside, just a little bit too far back. You can see the corner speed that he can take. I just can't, I can't defend from that as we run up towards the corkscrew. It's almost side by side. The F50 is just better on the brakes, and I'm completely out of options now as we come down the other side of the corkscrew. I don't get it sideways this time, but I'm going to have to concede the position. And it wouldn't take long for the red F50 to catch up to the leader. You can just see, you can just take so much more speed through these corners. The blue F50 is slightly faster in a straight line, but on a track like this, you're going to want the corner speed, and sure enough, the red car is to the inside. The blue F50 is not giving up without a fight, tries to hold it and does hold it around the outside, but then that puts you on the outside for this corner as well, and going around the outside of both of them and trying to go around the outside of the car that has more grip than you, that's quite unlikely. That's quite difficult to do, and in the end, yeah, the blue car has to concede the position, and it's just too far back to try anything. A little bit of rallycross as well across the corkscrew. The rest of the field was somewhat more spread out. The action at the front was quite good in this race. The rest of it was, yeah, pretty spread out, and quite a lot of it was broken after lag was being a real pain, as this this Dino gets a very big slide on. Yeah, lag was a horrible mess. The car, the sort of us top 4 seemed okay. This was what was going on for the rest of the field. Many flying cars, flying car in the background. I don't know where the Dino is on the track. The game can't decide. It's chucking it around all over the place. There were sort of a few occasions with sort of people that could see the cars around them, but there wasn't very much overtaking going on elsewhere. Not helped by broken cars and not helped by lag. Sure enough, at the front, it was to be the red F50 that would take the victory. Would pretty much drive away. I was very, very gradually, you'll see me in the background, I very gradually caught up to second place. I would just run out of laps in the end. But it was to be a Ferrari 1-2-3 with us 3 at the front. It's a flying car again. Lamborghinis would get 4th, 5th, and I think 6th place, possibly. Yeah, it was a solid victory for the Ferraris in round 1. Our second race, we would go to the Road Atlanta full circuit, and the first corner is quite difficult, I will be honest, and sure enough, all of the Lamborghinis fell off at turn 1. 4 cars fell off, all of them were Lamborghinis. Yeah, turn 1 is a little bit of a difficult one here. It's pretty fast, and especially if you're on the outside, you put a wheel on the grass, you can end up in trouble quite easily. The car that we're following at the moment started in around 8th place, has made up quite a number of spots on this opening lap just by staying out of trouble. Keeping yourself out of trouble is always important on this opening lap. It's almost 3 wide as we come up towards the very long straight. The GTO we're following has to get brave around the outside of Diablo, around the outside of one corner, and then around the outside of the next. Diablo squeezes him a little bit on the exits. The GTO has just got so much speed that he can get the move done as we come down the very long straight here at a Road Atlanta. Straight line speed is certainly useful at this particular track, and there's a 250 GTO in the background that is absolutely flying up to this particular vehicle. Unfortunately, lag would strike on the opening lap, and the third place GTO would go for a spectacular roll. It would also throw off a Diablo at the chicane as well. I don't ask, I don't know quite what on earth went on there. Strange old Forza servers. further back, we would have something that we haven't seen happen in a very long time in Versus the Community. This is very rare for a proper, sort of what I would call a proper roll happening in one of these. A Lamborghini Aventador clips the inside curb here. There is a little bit of lag, and the Aventador rolls over. I haven't seen a proper roll like that for a while. Admittedly, there is a bit of lag on the replay, but that looks like a normal, traditional FailRace roll. And that is a corner that is well known for rolling vehicles on Forza 4. Never seen a car roll on 5 there. And it would be an Aventador, the car that I struggled to roll on 4, that falls over on this particular one. Further up the field, and there was an interesting battle developing over what was now 3rd place. I was stuck in the middle of it between 2 Lamborghini Diablos. I was struggling with visibility, not entirely sure where the Diablo was. Ended up out far too wide, and he got the position. However, this is where the straight line speed of my Ferrari comes in. You know you're close to the other car when the camera can't quite sort of show it. Yeah, a little bit close down that back straight. I get to the inside on the way into the chicane, but I don't have the brakes, I don't have the handling of the Diablo, so I have to be a little bit careful. He can hold it around the outside, but that means he runs wide on the exit. I'm trying to get up the inside for the final corner, as a Ferrari 355 has a bit of a moment out wide. We go too wide through the final turn, the Diablo being brave around the outside. That's not a place you normally want to go too wide. It's pretty damn scary going around the outside of that final corner, but even with the straight line speed on my car, I can do nothing about the Diablo. And half a lap later, and the white Diablo is now hounding 3rd place, sort of bringing me along with it as well. 355 is not that far back if anything happens to go wrong with us lot as we race down the back straight. These two are fairly evenly matched in straight line speed. The black car is just a little bit faster. However, it doesn't have anywhere near the same grip as the white Diablo. We come under braking into the chicane. The white Diablo thinks about it, is a little bit too far back. I locked up something in there, but I managed to make very, very good time through the corner. I'm almost sniffing at the back of the white Diablo. But as we come up towards the final corner, it's again too wide. Everybody squeezes through, just about get away with it. Do the 2 Lamborghinis, and then we learn the danger of putting a wheel on the grass into turn 1. The white is just a tiny amount too wide for the white Diablo. A dab on the grass, and the car is spun around. No damage, of course, can get away with it, but loses at some time. At the front, and it was 2 Ferraris that were leading the way. The GTO was manically trying to hold off the 250, tried to get brave around the outside of the final turn. Most of the overtaking seemed to be going on at that final turn. I've had this a few times. It was one of the hardest places to overtake you. That seems to be where manoeuvres were at least attempting to happen. Out of the first corner, though, again, the 250 gets a much better drive, but can't quite get positioned. They don't want to go too wide at the top of the hill. The 250 wisely backs out of that one. Then that would probably end quite badly. The acceleration of the classic race car, though, is so great. He can pull alongside. They go side by side down the hill. The GTO is really not giving up. However, in the end, the 250 is just a little bit too quick. Manages to get the position. A bit of a close thing on the exit of that corner down the next straight. The GTO is close, but just a little bit too far back to try anything. After his fairly spectacular spin, the white Diablo would eventually catch back up to his fellow car. I would have a TV turning off issue, crash my GTO and end up with quite knackered suspension. So yeah, I dropped down the order to about 7th. As you come into the first corner, it was the black Diablo that was out a little bit wide and lost a little bit too much time. The white car gets to the inside. They just about get away with going side by side. In the end, the black car had to kind of back out of that one to avoid a crash. You can just about get away 2 cars wide, but yeah, both drivers have to be very aware of what on earth is going on at that moment in time. At the front, and it was to be the 250 GTO that would take the victory. The other Ferrari remained close, though. It was very close between these two. Just dropped back a little bit on the final. Kind of pushed a little bit too hard into the chicane, had a big lock up and a big slide, so it just fell back a little bit, but it was pretty close between the top 2 Ferraris. Lamborghini would fare a little bit better in this one, claiming 3rd and 4th position. we move on to our final race, this one at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And as we come into the first corner here, it was two Lamborghinis that led the way, which made a change. In this particular session, all sorts of shenanigans would go on in the next corner. There was, quite a bit of bumping, and then quite a few broken cars would end up, and lag wasn't helping. There was a fair amount of lag going on in all of these races, which is a bit of a shame, really. The front 5 cars got away fairly safely. Everything further back was quite badly damaged, or had just about got away. With instances, the two Diablos still led the way, and they would be helped as into this particular corner the two F50s would bump into each other, and so to be slowing each other down at this particular stage. It wasn't a particularly clean start to this race, though, and there wasn't a huge amount, in all honesty, going on for large parts of it. At the front, it was the best of the action. The two Ferraris were vying for position, going side by side through Maggie's and Becky's. That's a tough place to overtake. The blue car just pushed a little bit too hard and ended up out wide, losing time, and was too far back at the end of the straight. The best of any action going on further back saw a 355 trying to fend off, as you can see, a fairly knackered F50. I'm not sure if that's just a slightly glitchy replay going on. I don't think the F50 with a smoking engine could actually be keeping up as well with the 355 as it was here. You can see what we were contending with as far as lag goes. Yeah, it wasn't particularly good. The F50's all over the back of the 355 as they come into Maggie's and Becky's, but as I said, this is a hard place to overtake. You can just about do it, but it is not easy at all. The 355 gets a big slide on the F50's trying to go around the outside, pushes it a little bit too hard, has a wheel on the grass, and there's another victim claimed by just running a little bit too wide. You can't get away with it in Forza 5. You stick a wheel on the grass in some of these supercars, and you're going to end up in trouble. At the front, the Diablo had a little bit of, or the second place Diablo had a bit of an off, and the two F50s were still going at it for the early part of the race. This is how they spent the entire time. The blue car trying to find a way past, gets a much better exit onto the long straight, and sure enough can get to the inside. You're probably your best overtaking spot at the Silverstone circuit. I love the glowing brake discs on the car on the outside there. In the end, fairly simplistic overtake. At the end of it, the silver car is just a little bit too far back to try anything into the next corner. Has a bit of a look, but is not quite close enough as they round. I'm not a huge fan personally of this particular Silverstone layout. I much preferred the old sort of the classic layout. But these were the closest cars on track, and the blue car can now just gradually pull away at the front. And that was it for exciting stuff. Everything else was so horrendously laggy on the replay, and then cars weren't particularly close to each other on track. Not much went on in the final race, unfortunately, other than a lot of lag and crashing. It was to be Lamborghini's first victory of the day, with the Diablo taking the win, while Ferraris would get second and third. It was a shame that there was so much lag and so many broken cars in this one that there wasn't a huge amount going on. Then the AI gets very confused. I don't know where he's going. He's just gone off exploring the track, and the camera has no bloody clue. Nope, Diablo's gone and got lost on a racetrack. Yeah, Silverstone was not particularly good in this race session. Anyway, that is it for this week's FailRace versus the community. The next one shall be held on Thursday, the 22nd of January. We're going to be on Forza 5, and we're going to be racing open C-Class cars. So you can bring whatever you want in C-Class. The races are going to be starting at 7 PM GMT time, as per always. If you would like to sign up and take part, then you can go to our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and the sign-up thread will be in there. However, that's it from me, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.